That's all it is, Miles. A leap of faith.
Like, what's up, danger?
Alright, chapter 171 review. Plus 170, because there's a lot to say about that too. I just didn't get a chance to make the video. Anyways, let's continue. So, in terms of the cliffhanger, so one of the things I want to say about Rent a Girlfriend is I feel like it's a series that's just easier to binge because of the pacing stuff and the cliffhangers. Because these cliffhangers are murdering me. Actually goddamn murdering me. But at the same time, if you're binging this series, like once we get past this point and once the series finishes or whatever, it'll be an amazing series to binge because when you get these cliffhangers, you get excited. You're like, what's going to happen in the next chapter? And then you go to the next chapter and then you keep reading and so on and so forth. That makes the series all that much better. One of the things people complain about with Rent a Girlfriend is how there's a lot of flashbacks. However, the lot of flashbacks I feel are very important to the character progression, to the setup, to these things, because when you're seeing something like that little flashback Kazuya has where it's just literally 2 panels and it was from a second ago, it's clarifying to you what happened in that scene. Because when you're in that scene, it's like, sure, it doesn't seem like much initially, but when you think about what's happened up until this point, it makes perfect sense because you literally heard Sayuri say she doesn't admit these things, and then now you're seeing this progress from Chizuru where she openly admits to Kazuya that maybe she is a little weak. Now, this is relevant to a lot of stuff that's happened in the series. This is extremely relevant to what's going on. When I was writing the chapter 170 review, I literally said, like, this date is probably going to start a little awkward, and it did. It started pretty awkward. They weren't talking, and that's hints to you as the viewer because them not talking is very clear signs that Chizuru is awkward and uncomfortable in this situation because here she is trying to have an actual moment with a person. She's putting herself on the line. She's not putting on a script, a facade, the rental dates. She's not doing that. But Kazuya has been in these dates before, so to him it's comfortable because he's always put himself on the line. So this isn't weird for Kazuya at all. It's a little weird, of course, like, because he's actually on a date with this girl, like, thank you. But for her, it's a little different because for her, she's now really putting herself on the line. And it's weird because you can tell, like, she's not talking. Chizuru was even stuttering. She was literally stumbling over her words. Not only because of how much of a scene Kazuya was making, but because of how far she's going to, like, put herself out here to put emotions on the line. And when she asks about Ruka-chan, yo, signals. When Chizuru mentions Ruka, she's not only testing the waters to make sure like everything's okay, she's making sure there's not gonna have battleships in there. She doesn't want to deal with Ruka. She doesn't want to deal with like mixed emotions or any of that shit. But at the same time, she's like affirming for herself that it is okay to go and do this. She really wants to see a clear path. That's the rough part about this, is like Chizuru wants to see a clear path and it's right there. It's just barely visible and she just needs to kind of take the plunge. And she is. Chizuru is taking the plunge. That's the best part about this, is Chizuru is actually making a move here. And she's giving Kazuya hints and signals. She's trying to make sure that he feels the same way. What she's doing here is she's reaffirming this for herself. Because she's had many signals, she's had many signs, everyone tells her that this is how Kazuya feels. Kazuya literally straight up confessed to her, but she's afraid. Because Chizuru doesn't put herself out like this. Chizuru has never put her emotions first. And this comes back to a line Kazuya said from chapter 170, where he says, it's like there's 100 different versions of her. And I personally call this the 100 different faces of Chizuru, because she is an actor. You see the many different sides of Chizuru, you see the many different perspectives of Chizuru throughout the series, but it's rare that you experience Chizuru the same way in any event. You're always experiencing a different side to her, something new, something different. But you've never experienced her in a very personal fashion like this, because even in those personal moments that Kazuya has with Chizuru, she's guarded. She's defending herself. But this is different. Do you know why it's different? It's shown in the clothing. It's shown in how she's presenting herself. It's shown in how she's talking, how she's conversing. First off, the turtleneck sweater. Why would she wear a turtleneck sweater? Well, for one, to look great, because Chizuru looks amazing, but the turtleneck sweater is symbolism, and it's also comfort. It's symbolism in the sense that she's trying to guard herself. She's defending herself because it's a way to comfort yourself. You know, when you sit in a blanket and you cover yourself up, you're comfortable. And so when you go out and you wear a jacket, it's a way to feel comfortable because you're putting yourself out there. you feel naked. So what this does is it makes her feel comfortable in her own skin. But at the same time, it's also doing two other things. One, it's seeing if Kazuya likes her for who she is, not who she presents herself to be. This is a very casual Chizuru. Chizuru doesn't dress like this. I've pointed this out many times, but her not dressing like this is a way to show to the audience and to Kazuya, it's like, hey, I'm being my real me today. I am dressed comfortably, I am looking good, but I'm also defending myself because I don't feel as comfortable. And she's also signaling to Kazuya that she's trying to make a move, because if you've seen how people have colored this image, everyone has colored the sweater red. Red is a color of passion. She's interested. She's trying to show him that she's serious. And you get to see that she's serious because she asks an offhanded question like, Ruka. Why would she bring up Ruka? She literally asked him here. Is that all she wanted to discuss? Doesn't make any sense. Even Kazuya says this. Why is she just bringing up Ruka out of nowhere? Like, I thought she had something more to talk about. And then she goes silent afterwards. The silence is an indication to Kazuya that she's interested, but she also doesn't know how to push. And Kazuya clearly picks up on this. He catches on pretty quick. In fact, I found out one of the translated lines was slightly altered and the dialogue was slightly changed to Kazuya actually noticing that Chizuru is acting different. When I look at the way she's acting, that makes him asking her out later make all that much more sense, because at first he was denying it and now he's like, oh shit, it's right in front of me. Her body language also speaks volumes. So when she asks about Ruka, she pulls her head down a little bit. She's drinking coffee, she's holding coffee. Her face has a slight blush on it, and she's looking away. She's not facing him. What do you notice here? This is what Kazuya does. This is how Kazuya talks to her whenever he's trying to tell her his real feelings. He never looks her in the face. Occasionally he does, of course, but usually when you mean something else, but you're saying something, you look away. It's meant to indicate something. There's body language here. The entire time, if you look at any of the panels where you're seeing Chizuru and she's asking about Ruka, she's looking away. And then you have the slight moment where he tells her, no, not really. In the end, I just don't have feelings for her. She looks away again, but her eyes look brighter. She has a slight smile now. Her eyebrows went up a little bit to indicate relief. She feels better now, because Kazuya just confirmed to her that he might like her, that she has a chance. He doesn't like Ruka even though he's been with her this whole time. He's confirming to her his real feelings. Then things get awkward and they don't talk and they're both looking down. Kazuya is extremely confused. Chizuru is still blushing. Speaking of which, have you noticed how Chizuru has been blushing this entire chapter? This entire chapter, Chizuru has been blushing. Reason for this? She's goddamn interested. And she keeps giving the boy signals. And of course, the one slightly disappointed face that happens after the long moment of silence. The reason for this is because she's been giving him signals this whole time, and Kazuya hasn't responded. Now, Kazuya doesn't know how to feel, but she also wants a response from him. And then Kazuya looks down and she's mixing her tea. She's not drinking the tea. She's waiting for something. She's not talking, she's not doing anything, and she's just mixing her coffee. I said tea earlier, I know. You see a panel of her looking down. She's blushing. She looks slightly disappointed, yet also flustered, because she's putting herself on the spot, and she's just casually mixing her coffee. She's waiting for a passionate response, because that's what Kazuya does. He passionately responds. Have you noticed how all of the really strong moments you've had in Rent-A-Girlfriend is when Kazuya is having these really powerful responses where he like screams it out and he sounds like really like intense about it and he really means it. That's what she's waiting for, because that's how Kazuya responds. That's what Kazuya does when he's really like excited and he really means it, because it's him showing his real emotions, because she knows he's able to hide himself, he's able to lie, he's able to not like fully express himself just like she can, because Chizuru fundamentally understands who Kazuya is, because Kazuya is essentially just a different version of Chizuru. They do the same things, and this is something you can track all the way to the beginning of the series. Like from the very beginning, you can immediately tell they are extremely similar people with problems specifically designed to work for each other. Their problems complement each other. They understand each other on a fundamental level because they are so similar. They're similar enough to work with each other, but not too similar where they completely like irritate each other. They work perfectly off one another. So this part of the recording got messed up, so I'm a tad irritated, but I re-recorded again because this is something I've noticed and I worked really hard. Now, watch me at my best. Or my angriest, I don't know. Have you ever heard the idea how people tend to be subconsciously attracted to individuals who look like their parents? Well, I find it interesting that both Chizuru and Kazuya have these traits about them. There are a lot of shots where Chizuru is drawn like Kazuya's mom. In this chapter, her hair looks just like Kazuya's mom, and when the screen zooms out and we get to see like those smaller panels, the similarities become super apparent. Now, it could just be Ryuji being Ryuji, but I think there's a little bit more to it, since Ryuji rarely does things just because and generally has a reason for aspects like these. The man pays attention to the little details, I'm just saying. And this further proves my point when you notice that Chizuru has personality traits from both Negumi and Kazuya's mom. She'll literally chew out Kazuya and give him literal hell for being an idiot, something Negumi would 2000% do, but she also has an affectionate side and keeps track of her partner's feelings, usually looking out for him and sticking by him when he needs help, calling Kazuya out on his shortcomings, but telling him to move forward all the same. Which, if you've been paying attention, you'll notice something Kazuya's mom does as well. And of course, she'll punch him like his dad. Yeah, baby, violence. In terms of Kazuya, he literally looks like Chizuru's grandpa. He's got the hair, the eyebrows, the nonchalant, fun personality, except he's a horny 21-year-old version of him. Kazuya, just like how her grandpa used to do, screams out loud his passions for Chizuru. You can go as far as to say Kazuya reawakened her lost faith in her dream of acting, because when she met Kazuya, he embodies the person she was making it for in the first place. He indirectly filled the void of the seat she was saving for her big screen moment. You can even see a similar moment way early on when Chizuru comes to his apartment after he was going to tell Negumi the truth, because Negumi, having the dream of Kazuya trying to find a beautiful person, is indirectly a way for Chizuru to fulfill her dream. You starting to see the subtle details here? This man planned shit ahead. But Kazuya, interestingly enough, also has traits from Sayuri, being hyper aware of Chizuru's feelings and calling her out when she's putting herself down in the dumps and armoring herself up. They both embody aspects that the other character craves in some way, because those missing pieces are exactly what their parents gave them when they were raising them. And once they separated from their home and lost those precious parts, Kazuya and Chizuru had to find a new way to fill the absent areas of the puzzle. Coincidence? I think not. And an interesting line I wanted to analyze here is, I made you say all that stuff. I didn't completely put myself aside on that date, right? I didn't completely put myself aside on that date. She always tries to put herself away from the dates. And that's an indication to the viewer for something really important. When Chizuru is having these moments, when Chizuru is on these dates, she's not putting her emotions out, she's blocking them in. She's able to dress fashionably, she's able to dress openly, she's able to be Mizuhara. Because Mizuhara is the facade of her being open and loving and caring and all these things and being in a relationship, because she's not actually on the line. Only the other person is. Only the other person is showing vulnerability to her. So she never has to be on the line. So when you see her on this date and she's dressed like this, she's dressed tightly, comfortably, relaxed, but at the same time, like, clearly well dressed. She's rocking the sweater, she's looking good, but at the same time, she's very comfortable. It's because her emotions are on the line. And this line all but sells it, because it just proves that Chizuru, when she's on dates, she hides her emotions, she conceals them behind the facade of looking good and amazing and beautiful and totally the perfect girlfriend. The money that Chizuru offers Kazuya here in this moment is really interesting to think about, because in a way, it's like a callback to the rental situation they had. Because up until this point, Kazuya pays her, but now she's paying him. And so when you first see it, you're like, oh, is she like requesting money or some shit? Probably like your immediate thought or something. Cause like, remember like chapter 3, I believe, like she left an envelope at his house and Kazuya like thought it was a love letter or some shit. But then it turns out it was her requesting money for the dates they went on. And here, it's the complete opposite. And it's a weird callback to the rental situation they have, where she offers him money, because he took her on a rental date and she believes she acted unprofessional, when it's not even that anymore. And it's an interesting call from the author. I feel like it's like a really clever way of him to just be like, hey, they're not a client and rental anymore. That's not what this is. That's literally the author pointing that out to you and be like, hey, this is what they were, and she just takes it away, like saying no to that. That's not what this is anymore. They're not this anymore, and it's okay for her to open up and be comfortable with him. I believe that's what the author was doing here. It's the author literally telling the audience, hey, don't worry, I'm not doing this rental shit anymore. We're done with that. Because right after that, you see Kazuya tell her, you are being so dumb. And when Kazuya is able to say a line like that to Chizuru, something he has never ever done, that is change. That is an icebreaker. That is him saying we are not client and rental anymore. We are the real deal. Good fucking writing, man. Good fucking writing. This shit's so deep, multi-layered bullcrap. I fucking love this shit. Thank you, Ryuji. Thank you, my dude. Keep at it. Keep up the good work. Keep up the good shit. Thank you, thank you. And then, of course, when she says, somehow I knew you would say that, it's not just showing that Chizuru understands Kazuya, it's also showing that, hey, this should be obvious to you as the audience. It's such an interesting thing because you don't realize it at first glance, but it's literally in an indirect way the author talking to you. Also, I love that small panel where Kazuya looks down, he's blushing, and you see the little droplets, and then you see Chizuru look at him and smiling, and she almost looks like she's reminiscing. It's an interesting nod to Chizuru's character. You see how much she appreciates the small emotional side of Kazuya because she doesn't get to experience that much, but it also shows to her how much he cares about her. It's essentially reaffirming to her how she feels and how he feels. It's a beautiful moment, honestly. It's a really cute moment, and God, I'm so proud of Ryuji for actually just telling them, yo, you two should just go the fuck out. I'm like, yeah, do it big, baby, do it big. Another thing interesting to note is how these two look at each other the entire time. Before, we'd always see Chizuru looking at Kazuya kind of blankly, and it's like a way for her to deny her feelings, but this entire time, she either avoids his gaze or looks at him with a comfortable smile. With a smile that shows, wow, I really appreciate him. I appreciate how much he means to me, and I also feel a little bit uncomfortable around him because of how things are going, and I want this to work out. And then when you look at from Kazuya's perspective, he's adoring her, he appreciates her, he sees how magical and beautiful she is, but at the same time, he doesn't quite completely understand her because they haven't opened up before. And so they're really kind of highlighting the dichotomy between these two here. They're really showing you how different yet similar they are, how they both appreciate each other's company, but view each other in a different yet similar way. It's subtle details like this where you can really appreciate how Ryuji writes, how Ryuji presents himself, and how Ryuji presents the series as a whole, because it's beautiful, and that's why this series is so touching to many people, because it does this all the time. All the time. This is what this series does all the time. It's just many people don't pay attention to the subtle details, the subtext, the in between the lines, in between all the stuff that's going on. And so these moments are more impactful to you emotionally because you're processing this stuff subconsciously, or you just miss it completely and then you end up hating the series for it. Also, one of my favorite faces in this panel, and it's really subtle, it doesn't indicate much, but one of my favorite faces is right after Kazuya gives her that little mini speech. It's like a blank stare, she lifts her eyebrows and she's like, she expected this. She saw this coming, but she's like, it never gets old. That's the feeling it gives me, because as I was explaining earlier, when Kazuya is really expressing himself, he pretty much screams it out loud, because that's how Kazuya is. He lets his emotions burst out, because in a way, Kazuya is like Chizuru. He bottles up his emotions, but for him, it's not self-destructive like her. For her, it's very self-destructive, because it's things she needs to really get out, because Chizuru bottles them up for a very long time. Also, I don't know why, when she says, somehow I knew you would say that, it almost reminded me of when someone confesses to a person they like and the person says no, but it almost feels like it's in reverse, where she confessed, but he said yes. And I don't know, something about that line, it's really cute, and I know that's not necessarily the indication it's trying to give here, but that's the feeling I'm getting from it. I feel like when she says, this is on me, this is my treat. It's a callback to, well, almost every interaction they've had. Usually they either pay together, they pay separately, or in terms of the film, when Kazuya first says he's doing this for the film, when they first go out to a coffee right after and she tells him to make the movie, he takes her to a cafe and he pays and he says, "You're the actress, I'm paying because I'm the director," or producer, he's not the director. And in this case, it's on her, because they're out together. This is a personal thing, she did this. It's an interesting way to see it, because usually Chizuru doesn't take initiative, and this whole time Kazuya has been taking initiative. Kazuya has been going out of his way to help her, he's been doing all these things for her, and it's a way for Chizuru to pay him back, essentially. Like, it's very cute, and it's not much, but it helps way more than you would expect. And God, the line that absolutely sells that moment for me is, let's call it a tear tax, JK. She makes a joke. And this is such a good line because of two things. One, if you're at the Sumi spinoff, which is on its last chapter for now, it's taking like a small break, she makes a joke there. And it's like she texts Sumi and she's like, "Do you want to go on a date? Lol." And you don't hear Chizuru say lol. And it's a tease from the author because at that same time, she was going on a date with Kazuya. Date. What this does is it shows you a silly side to Chizuru. It shows you the fun, interesting side of Chizuru that we don't get to experience often because Kazuya and Chizuru don't open up with each other. They don't have these small, intimate moments. And now that they do, you get to experience the real Chizuru, the comfortable Chizuru, the fun one. And this is what this is. It's like the comfortable, fun Chizuru that you don't get to see often. And it's a very cute and wholesome moment. Even Kazuya realizes, like, she made him blush, dude. He felt that one. Right in here. If you see the smiles in Chizuru's face here, it's different from usual. The subtle smile that you see when he's talking about Sayuri and he thinks of Chizuru, when you see her smile, usually when you see Chizuru, it's a guarded smile. Like something about the way she presents herself when she's dressed in different ways, it feels guarded, defended, yet at the same time open. And the openness is a script, it's fake, it's not real. But with this, it's weakness. But it's also whole. You feel, when you are able to feel a little weak, you feel complete. Ironic, I know. Because if you're always strong, you're never whole, because a piece of you is missing, because humans are inherently weak. And so when you're seeing these smiles, when you're seeing these moments with Chizuru where she's just being herself, she's comfortable, she opened up and she let herself be a little weak. You're seeing the real her. And Kazuya realizes this, and he even says, and he points it out specifically to the audience where it zooms in and you see her subtle smile, but something about the smile is different. She's slightly blushing, she's looking down, you don't see her eyes, you only see her subtle smile and the small blushes as she looks down. And he says, she also has a hint of weakness. And finally, the reason she's trying to keep the date short here is because she didn't want to push her luck. She didn't want to go too far. She's like, okay, this is for me. I'm gonna just go a little bit here. I'm not gonna go too fast. I'm gonna try to take my time and not push my luck here. And that's why she leaves at exactly noon. She only takes up 30 minutes of his time. She's like, okay, we're done, let's go. And so when Kazuya says, nah, let's keep it going, she's like, oh shit, he's giving me signals. Nani? He's giving me signals? Okay. So I feel like the way Chizuru's gonna react next chapter, she's going to say yes, because he gave her signals. It's just she's gonna be a little bit weird, because now that tinge of awkwardness that was taken away from what happened earlier is slightly back, because now Kazuya is giving him an indication that he's possibly interested. So when we start next chapter, do not be surprised if there is a tinge of awkwardness. Do not think to yourself, no, why is she awkward, yada yada yada, the awkward just should be gone. It's back now. Trust me, it's back now. Because if you walk in and you think she's not going to be awkward after that, bro, you a fool. And if she isn't, great. She take it in strides. Let's fucking go. But if she is, do not be surprised, because this is her stepping out of her comfort zone, and now she has to do it slightly more, because Kazuya is just like, yo, let's do this. It's so awesome to see Kazuya just openly admit, I do not have feelings for her. I like you. Period. Naturally, he doesn't say that to her, but then afterwards he feels awkward. Now, the reason he feels awkward and he's asking all these questions, he's like, there's no way this, there's no way that. He's trying to avoid the obvious. Like, a part of him is 200% aware. Like, sure, he's a little stupid when it comes to dating because he hasn't really dated before. But it's so obvious to him that could be the case. Like, why would she just ask about Ruka? And even if he doesn't know, that's pretty obvious that's what Chizuru's doing. She's like literally signaling to him. And then when you go to like, what is it, page 8, you see like her little disappointed face, and she's just like he's not talking, he's not saying anything. She's like, did I do something wrong? Did I miss signal or something? And Kazuya's like, what the fuck do I say? And she's like, I'm trying to give you signals. And then they don't know where to go, so they stay quiet for a while, and then she pulls out the check, and that starts up the conversation again. It's also interesting seeing her bring up the conversation in this way. I don't know if this was intentional. I feel like it wasn't. I feel like it wasn't like intentional, like to mislead him in a way. I think it was intended as a way of her to actually thank him. Like, this is meant to be a thank you. It's like, hey, you helped me a lot when I was down, and she didn't want to outright say that, so she's using the money as a way to say thank you back. And then she tells him she was being unprofessional, and I think that's a reference to when she was at her grandma's altar and she says, I was really unprofessional. I don't know if it's her saying, I have feelings for you. Like, that could also be a clue to Kazuya that she might have feelings for him. I also think another possibility could be that Chizuru thought that Kazuya didn't reciprocate her feelings. So what she did is this was like her second plan. It was to give him the money, and it would be a way for her to essentially go back to the rental situation they had before, because she's desperate to not lose this connection. And so the reason for her, a possible reason for her giving him the money could be that she wants to go back to that situation because it's a way for her to escape losing Kazuya, because he might not feel the same way. So she offers that to him, and then when he denies those feelings, she's like, oh, okay, he has feelings, he just won't tell me. That could be the situation, that could be what's going on. But I also think it's kind of her like looking down at herself a little bit, because if you look at her face in that moment, she almost seems disappointed. And it's not disappointment in that she opened up to Kazuya, it's disappointment in herself because she thinks she's not a good enough actor. And it's coming back to like these moments before where she's doubted herself as an actor, because she's had a lot of those moments where she stops and she doubts herself. And it's like, the reason Kazuya thinks she's so amazing is because even though she does these things, even though she stops and doubts herself, she never stops moving forward. That's the difference between her and Kazuya, is Kazuya will like sit down and feel really bad about it, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with someone sitting down and feeling really shitty about it, but that's why he looks up to her. That's the point of that, because she's able to talk shit about herself, like literally just put herself down in the garbage dumps, and then she'll still get up and do the thing anyway. And that's what makes her so amazing as a character. That's what makes her so interesting, because you're like, shit, she's able to do something like that. She's able to really step up and be like, no, I gotta do the things I want to do. And so when in this moment where she's saying, I'm being unprofessional, she's putting herself down a little bit, because she's just like sure, like it needed to happen, and she knows it needed to happen, but at the same time, she's a little disappointed in herself. And then Kazuya's like, you're so dumb. And I absolutely love that line, because Kazuya just called her dumb. Kazuya doesn't call her dumb. Kazuya doesn't stand up to Chizuru, and that's progress for Kazuya's character, because he overcame his self-doubt and self-loathing. To a degree, of course. Like, he still has it a little bit. Like, it's also like not as bad because of what he was able to do today. Asked her out. And also in this moment where he says, you're so dumb. Because when he says, you're so dumb, have you ever heard Kazuya like say that to her? Unless it was like the beginning of the series, and even then, he could barely converse with her. But here, he actually calls her out. And when Kazuya is able to call her out like this gives us two signals as the audience. One, he's able to do that naturally now. He will do it again. If she's being shitty, if she's being sad, he will do that again, because he feels like he has that right now. He has the ability to speak to her as an equal-ish. He probably still doesn't think he's as an equal with her, but whatever, because he always puts himself down. That's what Kazuya does. And the other thing is that Kazuya is just confident in himself now. And what it does is that it makes things natural. It makes things comfortable. This moment is an icebreaker. Because Kazuya said this, whatever awkwardness they had, where they couldn't talk, they couldn't converse, flew out the fucking window. And so now they're comfortable, they talk and converse. It makes it easier for him to talk and converse. But he's also screaming in the restaurant and everyone's looking at him. This moment's so good because it builds on what it just did. It doesn't just stop there. And the reason for that is because he says, "What the hell are you talking about? Are you serious? I didn't think it was unprofessional at all. You were the perfect girlfriend all day." So I was glad I was able to help because it felt like maybe I was able to be there for you. He indirectly gives her a signal. He didn't plan to give her this signal, but he did it. And at the same time, he's also honestly telling her how he feels, talking. One of the things Rent-A-Girlfriend has done a good job of not doing. He's showing her how much he cares. When he shows her how much he cares, she starts to feel better. She starts to feel relieved that she can talk to him and be comfortable with him because he feels that way about her. It's solidifying their relationship, their bond. This is something that needed to happen. It has been building up to that for a very long time. And the moment where these two like had that thing where she cried in his arms, that was like the moment that was like, here, go, do the thing. Open up, you two need to have a bond now. Stop fucking around. And then when she says, well, maybe I'm just a little soft, it's her opening up to him. The fact that she's willing to open up to Kazuya is an amazing feat for Chizuru as someone who doesn't open up to people, as someone who has continued to deny this relationship over and over and over and over. Also, this panel is wonderfully drawn. Like you can tell exactly what's going on in this scene. Like there's the window behind her is shining over her and it's making her glow like a blinding light because that's how Kazuya sees her. She literally, quite literally, illuminates his world. Every time he's around her, there is literally colors coming out of the screen. That's what I tried to do when I colored the picture of when he runs into her when she's first wearing the sweater. Even though she admits to him she's a little weak, this is a moment of her opening up. It's cute, it's wholesome, and it's intended to be like very close. Not something that's far off and distant and cold as it has always been. And then her pushing to pay. She's making moves, dude. She's throwing so many signals at this dude, and he knows it. And I think that's why he asked her out. I think that's legit why he asked her out, because he's catching on. Also, here's another one. We should come back. We. Why'd she say we? She's giving him clues, dude. The coffee's pretty good. There's so many clues. It's so obvious. Also, that coffee was cheap as fuck. $4.40. Coffee here would be like, what, $10? Man. And even then, when Kazuya says, when I saw her smile like that, it didn't feel like a person who had lost her last relative at all. But those feelings, they were no lie. It's him seeing that he did something. It's him seeing that he made progress. He made change for this girl. He made change for the one he loves. And that's because what Kazuya and Chizuru have now is a genuine, real bond. They broke the ice. They got past that point. And I think after this, they're probably going to have more dates like these where they're just going to hang out, and you'll see like maybe possibly quick montages of them where you'll see them like hang out more, and she'll ask him out and then he'll ask her out and then they'll just go out. And then eventually he's gonna have to do something about Ruka because he's been very heavily hinting about the fact that he's gonna break up with Ruka. I'll delve more into Ruka later, but so far what I have to say is just that it's for her, it's like it's more of a tragic situation because Ruka feels like she's making progress even though she's been holding back this whole time, but it feels more tragic because you get to spend so much time with Ruka and you get to really see how she's not like a terrible person. Like she's actually going out of her way to try and understand Kazuya. She's trying to actually make change between her and him because Kazuya is essentially her fantasy. Not only is he her way of feeling things because she feels like she can't feel anything besides him, but he's also a way for her to live her fantasy of the ideal dating because she's a high school kid who doesn't know any better. It sucks because Kazuya clearly knows he doesn't like her and he makes it clear to the audience like twice now, and it's very like concrete. It's not just, oh, I don't know how I feel. No, he's like, Chizuru's the one, period. And then finally, the final line, won't you have lunch with me? My dude literally asked her out on a date. I'm so fucking proud of him. Oh my god. He literally just went past like the fact that he just wants to be her strength. He's like, I goddamn adore this girl. A comes before L. I'm just gonna go for it, dude.
Not bad, kid.
And it's gonna be a little awkward after that too, because it's like he just straight up asked her out on a date, and you can see like Kazuya is like sweating bullets over here. Like, look at this man, he is sweating mega bullets. And you can tell like by his eyes, by his like eyebrows, like he's so serious. There's only 2 ways I could see her saying no to this date. It's interesting because neither of them is technically a no. So the first one, she feels a little uncomfortable because it's not that she doesn't like him, it's just she just feels weird because she's been putting herself out so much. So now she's just like, maybe not now. Or even better, slightly subvert your expectations by having her say, no, I can't, but how about dinner? They get closer as like friends, even though it's clearly dating. And then their relationship gets completely tested by Mommy, where Kazuya has to straight up admit that he loves Chizuru. And then from there, Mommy's plan fails, and then we have a Mommy arc, because Mommy has been like this whole thing for Rent-a-Girlfriend where she kind of like needs an arc, because they've been hinting so much at Mommy this whole time. Like, you don't really know what's going on with Mommy, you don't know what's up with her, but you get clues, you get ideas of what's going on through her head. Like she's not a completely horrible person, it's just we don't understand her motivation because we don't get as much time with her. But she's also extremely intimidating and kind of weird. But if you've noticed, a lot of Mommy's plans haven't really like per se done anything horrible. Like she's intimidating as and she's done some awful things. Like I'd say the beach arc was probably her worst moment in terms of a character, but at the same time, even in that beach arc, you can see that she was flustered, that she was like a little uncomfortable in that moment, because she might actually still have feelings for Kazuya, and that's why she's like doing this. Because like before she like dumped him because she thought that was it, but then turns out there's more, and now she doesn't know how to feel. That could be what's going on. She might have feelings for Kazuya, and then she might be trying to look out for him, but she doesn't have all the information, and her pride is her own hubris. I could see a couple things coming from this. One, Chizuru possibly cracks under the pressure, which after reading this chapter I think might not happen because of the way Chizuru is acting. She feels comfortable around Kazuya. She feels like she's kind of moving forward and slightly overcoming her issues here. And so I don't think that could happen, but it is a possibility nonetheless. Situation 2, Kazuya cracks under the pressure, in which case Chizuru steps up and she's like, I'll be your rock because you've been my rock. And then they have like a little moment here and there, and I don't know, something happens. Or 2, neither of them crack under the pressure and they're like, that, and they just panic a little bit, and they're like, okay, we gotta deal with this situation like in a smart way. And then they tell them the truth, that they didn't like each other at first, but now they're like close friends and stuff, but they're not dating, or they are dating at that point, and they tell them that wasn't the case. I'm sorry we lied to you, we were really shitty people, but we are dating now. The best way I can view it is the Mommy situation will most likely be some sort of catalyst for them getting together, and then from there we lead into a Mommy arc, because I can tell if Mommy does something like this, she's gonna like lose the respect of Negami, she's gonna like lose the respect of a lot of people around her, because the way Mommy deals with situations is very passive aggressive, very gaslighty, very like puts you on the fucking spot, makes you look like the bad guy, but in reality the person who's talking is the bad guy. And Jesus, no, I don't know why, I just had like an image of Mommy doing that, and then Negami slaps the shit out of her, which would be hella brutal. But yeah, this is all probably leading to some sort of Mommy arc. These two, oh, these beautiful two are probably gonna get together, and that makes me so happy. But yes, we will see where it goes from here. Thank you all for watching, and that's been all my thoughts for the chapter 171 of Rent-a-Girlfriend. I have a few things I'd like to do from here on to just change it up a bit, because I've been very focused on these reviews and readings, but I wanna like expand more into scripts. I've been writing a few scripts here and there, but I haven't had the time to make videos out of them. Mostly because I'm kind of a perfectionist piece of shit, so I'll waste a lot of time just trying to get like the perfect line, the perfect things. I've practiced recording a few things here and there, but we'll see where it goes from there. Do me a favor, please subscribe and hit the like button. It helps way more than you think. And for now, I've been Fate. Thank you for watching, and I will see you whenever I see you. I have no idea. So, let's mosey.